In a recent press statement, Korean Air announced it would have 10 aircraft specially painted to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the airline. Korean Air, one of the two major airlines of South Korea, is a SkyTeam founding member and a major player in the Trans-Pacific passenger travel and cargo markets. From its hubs at Seoul's Gimpo and Seoul's Incheon Airport, Korean Air operates a fleet of 166 aircraft to 124 destinations in 44 countries. While it's regarded as a leading airline in Asia, Korean Air's history has been shaped by the post-World War II reconstruction and the Cold War. But what makes Korean Air stand out is that it overcame several accidents that affected its reputation to become a globally recognized airline. As it carries the Taeguk, a Korean symbol for yin and yang, let's take a look at the history of Korean Air. Korean Air and Korean aviation as a whole could trace its roots to the post-World War II reconstruction effort, as Korean National Airlines (KNA) was founded by the government to serve as a cargo passenger airline for the country in 1946. Using DC-3, DC-4, and Lockheed L-749 Constellation aircraft, the airline operated domestic flights until the Korean War broke out, which split the Korean peninsula into two, with the north being communist and the south being a democratic, backed up by the United States. While an armistice was signed by the north and the south, the Korean peninsula is technically still at war. But Korean National Airlines continued on operations in the years after. The airline would add flights to Hong Kong in 1957 and Seattle in 1959, while it ran as a private airline for a while. In an effort to boost the economy of South Korea, the Korean government pushed for more industrialization of Korean companies, including Korean National Airlines. Though there was an effort to resist the nationalization, the airline became a government airline in 1961 and was renamed Korean Airlines, KAL, the first airline of South Korea in 1962. Korean Airlines would operate as a government entity until 1969 when the Hanjin Transport Group, one of South Korea's major conglomerates, or Chaebol, took over the company in 1969, marking the return to private control. So the date, March 1, 1969, which now is celebrated 50 years later, marks its push to become a global airline. In the years following the privatization with the Hanjin Corporation, Korean Air would open long-haul freight services in 1971 and would open up more regional and trans-Pacific flights, including flights to Los Angeles, which used 707 aircraft, until the Boeing 747 was added to the airline's fleet in 1973. Paris would become Korean Air's first European destination and was among the first airlines to operate the Airbus A300. The airline concluded its 1970s with the addition of flights to New York in 1979. The following decade, the 1980s, Korean Air would take on the nude identity of the Taeguk on its aircraft and would continue its international expansion plans. The airline would also open dedicated cargo facilities in Los Angeles, New York, and Seoul's Gimpo Airport, and the Boeing 747-400 were introduced to the fleet in 1989. Korean Air was expanding in the 1980s, but however, the specter of the Cold War and tensions with the North and South Korea remained. Korean Air would be drawn into the geopolitical sphere after two deadly incidents sparked international outrage. The first incident happened on September 1, 1983. Korean Airlines Flight 7, a Boeing 747 from New York to Seoul via Anchorage, was shot down after it veered into Soviet Union airspace, killing 269 passengers and crew. Among the passengers included Larry McDonald, a member of the U.S. Congress. The incident sparked condemnation of the Soviet Union in one of the more tense moments of the Cold War. The second major incident happened 4 years later on November 29, 1987, on Korean Air Flight 858, a flight from Baghdad to Seoul via Abu Dhabi and Bangkok. A bomb exploded in midair while the flight was on its Abu Dhabi-Bangkok leg, killing 115 passengers and crew. While this incident happened in the last few years of the Cold War, the Korean Air 858 incident sparked tension between the North and the South 32 years after the armistice was signed. Cold War tensions would end in the early 1990s as Korean Air began to grow more routes, including Sydney and Sao Paulo. The airline would also open up new routes to China for the first time to a communist country, with new routes to Beijing, Qingdao, Tianjin, and Shenyang. New aircraft such as the Airbus A330 and the Boeing 777 were added to the fleet, and its cargo division was recognized as one of the world's best. However, the 1990s saw Korean Air's reputation take a hit after a series of accidents led aviation experts and industry observers to question the safety practices of the airline. Among the worst accidents for the airline took place on August 6, 1997. Korean Air Flight 801, a flight from Seoul to Guam, crashed while on final approach to the airport. The Boeing 747, with 254 passengers on board, attempted to land at the airport during inclement weather and the pilots battling fatigue. Of the 254 passengers on board, 228 passengers were killed, while 26 passengers survived. After sharp criticism from industry experts and including its own pilots, with its reputation questioned, Korean Air would embark on a $200 million program to improve pilot culture and safety standards. Korean Air looked to outside help, hiring David Greenberg, a former Delta Airlines vice president, to run operations for 2 years. Aircraft were fitted with new ground proximity warning systems, and more foreign pilots and restrictions when dealing with inclement weather were added to the program. The responsibility of pilot training was shifted to instructors from a joint venture by Boeing and Flight Safety International. Along with its efforts to improve its pilot culture, Korean Air was among the founding airlines of the SkyTeam Airline Alliance in 2000, and would eventually shift a majority of its international flights from its Seoul Gimpo hub to the new Incheon Airport, which opened in 2001. While it had domestic competition from the likes of Asiana Airlines, new high-speed rail connecting the cities of Korea, and the rise of low-cost carriers in Asia prompted Korean Air to form its own low-cost brand known as Jin Air, which today operates domestic and international low-cost flights. After its efforts were made to improve its safety standards, Korean Air would gain more international rewards and recognitions for those efforts in the late 2000s. Following the momentum of the international recognition and acclaim the airline would receive in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, Korean Air would add the Airbus A380, 747-8s, 787s, and the Bombardier CS-300 aircraft to its fleet. In 2013, Korean Air bought a stake in Czech Airlines, which it later sold in 2017, and would move to the new Terminal 2 at Incheon Airport in 2018. Along with its move to Terminal 2 at Incheon, Korean Air would announce a joint venture with Delta Airlines, which includes expanded codeshare flights, more coordination in operations and management, and increased promotion as Seoul's Incheon Airport as a premier hub in the Asia Pacific. While it's known more for its passenger airline services, Korean Air also owns hotels in Korea, Hawaii, and California. Among the hotels that Korean Air owns is the Wilshire Grand Tower in Los Angeles, which was acquired in 1989. Korean Air also has ventures in other aerospace and defense ventures through its Korean Air Aerospace Division, which has produced military aircraft and helicopters, and has contributed parts to Boeing and Airbus aircraft. While working on its other ventures, Korean Air remains committed to its passenger and air freight services. Its future will see the addition of new aircraft such as the Airbus A321neo and the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. With growing regional competition, Korean Air is looking to maintain its place as a leader in trans-Pacific travel. The airline is already in a good position, with Incheon being among the world's best airports. And with the prospects of peace in the Korean Peninsula, we can see Korean Air play a major role in the reunification and integration of the North and the South Korea as one nation. Now, if you watched and enjoyed this video, how do you see Korean Air's position as a major global airline and Seoul as a major transit hub in trans-Pacific travel? If you've ever flown with Korean Air, what is the best experiences that you've ever had with them? I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.